Hey, what's up, podcast? It's Jeff. Just want to jump in here. This is a special bonus episode of Teach Better Talk. This is actually going to be the audio recorded from a Facebook Live that our team is doing every single day, Monday through Friday, at 8 a.m. Eastern Time in our Facebook private group. You can get in that group at teachbettergroup.com or go on to Facebook and just search Teach Better Team. You'll see our page and then you'll see the group. Get in there. So here we go, a special bonus episode of Teach Better Talk pulled from one of our Facebook Live videos in our private group at teachbettergroup.com. Hope you enjoy.
Whether you're listening on the podcast or dropping in live, we are happy to have you here today. I'm happy to have Chris here. We've been talking back and forth for a while now, but he's an amazing educator. He works with Leadership in Education in Illinois, and he works for the ROE. Which number is it, Chris?
Number 4. We're out of Boone, Winnebago County. We also serve McHenry County.
All right, fantastic. So tell everyone a little bit about yourself, kind of what you do, and then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, my name is Chris Collins, and I've been in education for 27, 28 years now, and started as a middle school teacher, and that was a lot of fun. But I loved it so much, I became a middle school administrator. I was a principal for about 18 years, and after doing the principalship, I went into central office. I was a central office administrator, assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction for 3 years. And then for this past year, I worked with the Regional Office of Education as an assistant director for school improvement. And what really is cool about the job that I have now is I get to work with so many teachers and so many staff and so many different districts that in their school improvement structures and building those foundations so schools can see success. And it's probably been best job yet. So
that's awesome. That's fantastic. I love the growth of your impact over the years, right? From a principal to superintendent to now you get to work with multiple leaders. That's absolutely fantastic. I just want to give a shout out right now. We have people joining us. We have Brienne Fennel, Alex Valencic's walking his dog, but still enjoying our live broadcast. That's awesome. The one and only Dave Schmidow is watching. Dave, how are you doing? Mike Skapanik is here. Joe Gonzalez. Everyone's joining us this morning. I think they might have just heard you were coming, Chris. They got excited and they just wanted to hop in. So just through all the stuff, I know we've talked a couple of times just to let everybody know. Through all of this COVID-19 crisis, through all of this, like everything being locked down, how are you holding up? Everything going okay at home? Is family okay? Things like that. How are you doing?
Family's great. They're starting to go stir crazy. My wife and I were just recently married, so we're kind of blended 2 families together. So we have all these teams.
Oh, congratulations!
And yeah, this has been it's an interesting role. But you have all these high school, middle school kids that have been off of school for so long and figuring out how to do the digital online learning. And that's been going well. But it's been interesting to see how many different avenues the kids have to navigate during this time. One teacher will use this tool, another teacher with this tool. And so the kids are coming together going, so how do we do this and how do we do that? So it's been interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Hari Pacharu, great to see you. We're going international right now a little bit. That's awesome. So this has been a crazy transition for a lot of people, I think. And I think a lot of people are just adjusting. I was talking to a principal in Michigan, and he said one of the hardest things he's having to deal with right now is that there was no information when this first happened. So the students basically left. Some of them left. I know Illinois, I know Ohio had their spring breaks kind of scheduled when this happened. So a lot of schools were like, okay, we have a week to figure this out. But then it was like crickets, like there was no new information. And so this principal had told me, hey, the hardest thing I have to do right now is rope my kids back in because they think it's summer.
Yeah.
Like they literally just like nothing happened. We didn't have any information. We couldn't keep anything kind of going. And so it was just one of those things where like all these kids now think that spring break extended into summer break and that the year's over. And now they have to figure out a way to kind of reconnect, reestablish these relationships, reestablish these expectations from afar, which is so difficult. A lot of people are kind of dealing with that. So you get to talk to a lot of different schools, a lot of different leaderships. What are you hearing from that 1,000-foot view are the biggest issues in your area?
I think one of the biggest issues, I think the principal that you talked to really hit a lot of things nail on the head. There were some in Illinois, we had some overlap with spring break. We had some districts that went out before, and there was very little guidance. I know the state really worked hard at trying to provide as much guidance as possible, but this is territory. And
for everyone, yeah.
Exactly. And we had talked before about, Maslow before Bloom's or Maslow before Webb. And as educators, we're always looking to try to do what's best for our students. And it was really, I think it was the transition going back to the basic needs, and our students fed. Are those basic needs going to be met when so many students and so many communities depend on the school for so many different resources? And some of the superintendents did a really good job of getting out early and getting out the information and kind of taking leadership, and then actually started providing help and support to the state and providing that guidance. And our state was pretty good. They really did get out information pretty quickly. Again, everybody wants more information, but it's getting out the essential information. And talking about the Maslow before Bloom's concept of it started to expose a lot of areas that had either one-to-one or didn't have one-to-one, or students that had connectivity, connectivity issues, and kids that had high-speed internet in their homes, and so some of that issues had to be addressed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think something you hit on there from a leadership standpoint that was really, really important. I think we're seeing the difference in leadership. And I'm not saying good or bad or other, right? I'm not judging anyone because we're all, like you said, in new waters. But I think there was a clear difference on schools that are, for lack of a better term, thriving even in these uncertain times, and those that are still kind of floundering and figuring it out. And I think what that comes down to is being okay with making decisions without having all the information. So I think you have some leaders that went, we don't have the information, but we are going to take the ownership and the initiative to do what we know is best for our kids and put X, Y, and Z in place. Yes. Now you have these other people that said, we're going to wait. We're going to hold on. We're going to hold back and wait till we have more information. And then that information just trickles in really, really slowly. And those are the people, I think, who are struggling the most right now because they're waiting on information that no one has. Versus being proactive and putting things in place that you can later adapt if you need to. So I think you made an amazing point there that I want to just highlight for anyone listening or anyone watching, that those who were proactive, I think, are benefiting from that. Those who were like put things in place. And I know we have a lot of people like kind of listening in and watching right now. Depending on the district you're in, you could be feeling really good about things being in place, or you could still have no clue what is going on. So I'm definitely making those connections. I love the Maslow's before Bloom's. Another thing I think is really important is communication during this time. Yes. And a lot of administrators I talk to, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. A lot of administrators I talk to are waiting till they have information to share information. And something I'm kind of coaching and supporting them on is telling them you don't have any new information is just as important as telling them you do have new information, because then you have a lot of people wasting a lot of time waiting to act and waiting to do things. Have you seen a lot of that, or what are your thoughts on that?
What I've heard from people is that actually in times of crisis, what do we find? Even worldwide, people are so quick to help, and they want to jump in, and they want to provide, support. And then you have an overabundance of supplies and the logistical aspects of using that help and support. What I've heard is happening is there's almost too much information sometimes, and it's to prioritize that information. The school districts that are doing the best have a centralized communication system that they know their protocols, and it's very, very clear who the message sender is and what that message is. So they manage the message, because again, what do we know about us as people? If with the lack of information, we tend to assume, or we tend to gaps. And so this time has been challenging, because with the lack of information, we assume. With too much information, we don't know which message is true. So the districts that have really clear structures and protocols are really better off, because their message is very, very clear. And it's getting out the information that the district or the school or the principal needs to get out. And I think that puts us principals and leadership in a really interesting position, because we all knew that before, but because of proximity, we were able to catch that message back or something, or really kind of control it. But with everybody at home, it's hard to make those one-to-one connections to make sure that they understand what that message meant.
Absolutely. I love how you say things. They just sound really smart, like better than I could say them. So Joe, I want to say good morning to Joe Gonzalez. He said hello to both of us. Hope you're having a great morning, Joe. So something you said there that I think applies to leaders, but I think also applies to teachers and schools cohesively, right? And I think a lot of times we think the district has to talk to the parents and the stakeholders. The school has to talk to the parents and stakeholders, and the classroom has to talk to the parents and stakeholders. But there's not necessarily communication vertically between all three of these levels, right? So now as a parent, you're getting a newsletter, a Twitter post, a post on Schoology, or Google Classroom, and 47 different things. And like you said, you're getting tons of resources and tons of stuff thrown at you. And eventually you shut down and go, okay, I'm just going to just leave it all here and not worry about it, right? However, if you cohesively put something in place and go, this is a single source where you go for every single piece of communication. Now, Chris joined us. You joined us here on our masterminds, which I think was really successful. We talked to about 30 administrators from across the country just to kind of put our heads together. And one of the things that came up was that you don't want to overwhelm people with like 40 different avenues of communication. And so a lot of schools and districts are thinking about there's a single point of communication, whether that's at the building level or the district level. And that single point of communication is where all the information is funneled through. So that way, no one gets overwhelmed, no one gets confused. And maybe it's like a Monday, like news brief kind of thing, right? So every Monday, we're going to update this single avenue for communication. And through this avenue, you're going to get to your class assignments, you're going to get to your school announcements, and you're going to get to your district announcements. Because then you're not overwhelming like the entire community that you're trying to serve. Because if you create a Facebook feed, right, of information, they're going to just keep scrolling because there's 4,000 things to look at. So I think that's great. I think you put it beautifully. And I think that's something that every single teacher, administrator, and leader has to think through right now. And especially the teachers. If you, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this or ideas, but like for me, if you're a team, like a 6th grade middle school or a 10th grade high school team, and you're sending 8 different versions of a weekly assignment, like I don't know how well that's going to go over. You're going to overwhelm a lot of people. And your return on that stuff going to be very good. But if you put a single, this is what you have to do for this grade level this week, it becomes a lot easier. So I think something I'd like to kind of tease out a bit more is
Sure.
ways to streamline communication and keep it simple so it's easy to use.
I think a lot with communication, you talked about it just a few minutes ago about the different levels. You have the district office, which is strategic. And then you have the building administration, that's a very tactical level. And then you have the teacher, which is very operational. Every one of those layers have a different purpose. They serve a different, they communicate in different ways and different messages. And so I think districts have to be mindful of what is the purpose, and teachers even, what is the purpose for a strategic communication? What is that message? What is the purpose for that tactical or that principal level? Because that principal is going to communicate different messages than, or different purpose than what a district would. And then a teacher or the team, their purpose is also very different than what a superintendent would want to communicate. So I think the districts that are going to be most successful and the schools that are going to be most successful in making sure that that parent or that student understand what's going on is what is the purpose behind each of the three levels of the communication, and what is the essential message, a quick bullet point. A big thing that I see, and this happens all the time, is when we send emails, you got to keep it brief and to the point, because we tend to want to discuss the why behind a lot of things.
The most important thing's 3 paragraphs in. Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, just attention span and what are they saying technology wise? When you're giving a message technology wise, the video should be shorter than a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And you got to be very clear about what your message is and what is the purpose behind it. And, it just makes sure that it's very, very clear. And I know we want to build relationship and we want to have that, but during this time, you have to really kind of be, you have to be really, really conscientious about what are we sending and why we're sending it. And there it is. And if there's questions, where's that two-way communication back and being available if someone has a question.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to welcome Adam Kados and Brianne Fennell. Said it was a great point with those 3 levels of communication. I think you very eloquently kind of laid those things out. That's beautiful. Well done, sir. I think another point I loved about that is think about the importance of the message or the information you are sending and if it actually needs to be sent. Because something I've heard again and again is that administrators, teachers, and even parents and students, every piece of information they now get is a to-do on their list.
Yes.
You can no longer just kind of knock something out by having a quick 5-minute hallway conversation. You can no longer knock something out by, hey, staff meeting, everybody, don't, do X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. Okay, everyone good? Cool, moving on. Now that's an email. That's a text message. That's those are all things that you have to actively do something with. And so making sure that your communication is clear and concise so that you don't go insane is super important, because a lot of people are overloading and they're working 12 or 14-hour days because they're not turning it off. Because they're just constantly kind of replying. So I think something you alluded to, and I think we can get into a little more, is you need to put systems and structures in when you communicate and how you communicate, right?
Yes.
So if I'm a leader or a teacher right now, I'm going to be setting up expectations and strategic structures so that I can plan my day around communication and then working and getting what I need done. So maybe from 8 to 9 is my respond to communication time, right?
Yeah.
And then 9 to 9:30 is my reach out communication time. And then I have to start my day, but I'm shutting off my communication, then kind of turning it off and on the faucet. Because a lot of times, we have these devices, right? And
they never go away.
I can work a 20-hour day. Because people will keep communicating with me, and that's absolutely important. But if we're not mindful of that, we will burn out, because this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. We have to start creating sensible, maintainable structures and routines at whatever level we fall.
Yeah, the other thing that I want us to be mindful of is we have to grant each other a lot of grace during this time, because communicating online is much different than us communicating face to face. At least we now have the technology for Zoom or Facebook that we can actually meet and talk face to face. We all strive for that human connection, and I think there's a lot of people now that we're starting to really long for our community and long for our workplace and our kids again. But I see it is so easy to take a message and maybe turn it or read too much into it. And I think through this whole time is we got to grant each other a lot of grace and understand and kind of assume the best and assume the best in others. And we're all here for the same purpose. We all love our kids. We all love our teachers. We're all trying to do the best we can. But if we don't, again, what you're saying is we don't have those structures. Make it clear, I'm going to respond from this time to this time and then shut it off. So then someone doesn't have the assumption that I can exist in society. We live in this, I need this feedback. I want I want a share. And if your time is from 9 to 10 to respond, and it's 11:30, and someone asks a question and you don't give them that like or respond or share or response right away, that's where feelings can become they're just human. And so making sure that they understand what those clear boundaries are and why those boundaries are in place. And because again, it is so easy during this time to, at 11:30, look at your phone and get that information. And our desire to help and support, again, we're a supporting and helping position or profession. And that's why we go into it, because we love people and we love our kids and we want to help and support. But if we don't set those clear boundaries, we're just going to open ourselves up more and more for people to kind of take things a little bit further than what they need to make assumptions.
I love that. That's a great tip no matter what you do in education. That's a great tip no matter who you are, is kind of setting those expectations and boundaries. And something that you said earlier that I think ties in perfectly with that is unknown creates assumptions. Right?
Oh my God. So true.
The unknown creates assumptions. So if you've never told anyone that you're not checking email after 10 a.m. or you're not check it till 3 p.m. at the evening, they're going to expect or assume that you might respond. And now you're creating tension. Now you're creating stress. And now you're creating undue tension and issues that you shouldn't have to deal with. So being clear about how you're communicating, what you're communicating, and when you're communicating is absolutely paramount, especially in a situation like this. And if everyone is aware and knows what those things are, that stress level is going to come way down, because now a student turning in an assignment, and something you do an amazing job of, that I'm hoping in the future we can take more advantage of, just bringing you into these conversations, is the language difference. And we've actually had this conversation before. The language difference of the levels, right? So I think the problems and solutions are very similar at the levels, but the way we discuss them is what changes. So from a classroom level, that communication is with the stakeholders, in the trenches, the operational level, as you call it, right? It's with the parents, it's with the students, which is great, your direct line. But if teachers aren't clear about how they're communicating to those parents, now your parents are stressed. Now they don't know what's going on. So now the principal might have to deal with a complaint or an issue or something like that. However, at the principal level, now they have to worry about twofold. They still have to communicate with parents and things like that. And they have to communicate with support staff and their entire teaching staff at the exact same time. Then if you go up to that next tier, you have the district administrators who now have to deal with the building level leadership and the entire coordination of operations in the district, as well as these other tiers of individual needs that might pop up here and there. So it's absolutely paramount. Adam Katos just said that my families know that he has office hours from 9 to 11, but he'll respond if he's available after that time. So that's a really great point by Adam, who just chimed in. Thank you, Adam. And he's basically said, hey, office hours from 9 to 11. I'm here. I'm actively participating and responding to your needs. I will, if I can, after that, but do not expect it. So that's a really great example of what we were just talking about.
Absolutely.
Make it known so that no assumptions can get made. That's absolutely, absolutely true. Wow, we covered a lot of stuff. I'm just like trying to take it all in. I want to say hi to Ray Hewitt, who hopped in from the Teach Better team. Morning, Ray. I hope you're doing fantastic, enjoying your coffee this morning. Andrea Lynn is also here saying hello. All right. So from here, we've talked about communication. We've kind of talked about the need for that communication. Another huge stressor, and I want to go back to this Maslow's before Bloom's thing again.
Yes.
Because I talked to another administrator last night who's literally still making the argument with his staff that like they don't need to give grades for every assignment. Like this whole discussion about grace. And I almost want to just like shake the entire educational institution and be like, grades aren't the important thing right now, right?
I know. Yeah.
Like that one assignment you turned in on Monday, like one thing I want to just make it perfectly clear is like, things aren't normal.
No.
We are not in a normal situation. We are in a traumatic crisis, global pandemic, national lockdown. And if you think that the primary worry of your students, your teachers, or your staff, or whatever, is doing the worksheet that you assigned on Google Classroom every single day from Monday through Friday is the most important thing to them, you are wrong in every sense of the word. So, like, first and foremost, I think reducing workload from a teacher standpoint is a huge thing that we have to do. So like we should not be thinking about planning from an instructional standpoint Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We should be thinking these are the 3 things that would be amazing if you can do this week. You know, this is the hour or 2 hours worth of work for the week that you can be expected to do for math. So Andrea even said, my students know I have a baby at home, so they are pretty good at being considerate. So Andrea just brought up another great point.
Yes.
Every teacher and every student has parents with other kids and things at home. Like right now, my entire family is hiding upstairs because I'm on a video call.
Exactly. And I'm picking up the kitchen too, so I'm not even giving them opportunity to even come.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. My kids are waiting for breakfast. Like right now, like I can hear them. But it's one of those things where like, that's where that grace I think comes in. And I think that's where that's really important. Like, I think we need to, as a country, as an educational institution, all agree, even from like professional workplaces, like we're all in this situation. Like I want to expect to see a cat come across a video screen. I don't need to I shouldn't have to hide the fact that I'm wearing really comfortable pants right now because we all are. Okay. Like that's just the reality of the world we're in. And I think it'll be a lot easier if we all just accept that this is challenging as opposed to trying to hide the fact that it's challenging. Instead of being embarrassed that there's a kid in the background or that it's really noisy, I think we almost have to embrace it and go, you know what, we're going to make the best of this. But the same thing is true with our students. You know what? The assignment on Monday, did you at least look at it? Do you understand it? Do you need any help with it? Like having that conversation could be just as effective. So Andrea also said that's why she loves the grid because it gives them a suggested planning calendar. So that's one thing we haven't really talked about. We work with a lot of schools on self-paced mastery, and and students working. And there were a lot of teachers that reached out during the first few days or weeks of this process, and they were like, every teacher that I work with is freaking out, but I'm not. Exactly. And the reason I'm not is because my students already know how to access their materials. They can already work at their own pace. I've already planned the next 2 units, and they're aligned and tiered and differentiated. Okay, so we're good. They're just going to kind of keep on working as they can. And like, if you think about it, I think a silver lining to this is This is forcing teachers to be self-paced with their students.
Yeah.
This is forcing teachers to focus on mastery over did you do the 5 worksheets I sent
Yeah.
you? Because we have to care about mastery over those things because we can't expect to get them all back. So that's absolutely fantastic. So Chris, I don't want to keep you all morning. I know your kids are waiting for breakfast. I know my kids are waiting for breakfast. If there was one piece of advice that you're kind of sharing with your educators that you have in contact, if there was one thing that you could highlight, and you may have already said, you said a lot of great things today, but if there's one thing you could highlight, what would it be for anyone listening right now, either on the podcast later or watching live?
I think it really just comes down to granting yourself a lot of grace and the other people around you a lot of grace. I've talked to another school district who reached out, and they're concerned about grading practices during this time. The state has done a really good job of giving guidance of no new learning, and it really is kind of social promotion because how can we, as a system, some systems are better equipped than others. Like you're talking about systems that have good systems and structures in place that are using the grid method that understand mastery, and that is very few of a very large group of
Right.
buildings. You'll have some teachers that can do that and some teachers that can't, some teachers that are playing with it. But I think at the end of it really is understanding that we can control what we can control, and grading and giving incompletes is not going to be helpful or beneficial. It's only to really make people during this time of trauma feel like, oh, I can't do this and I can't do this.
Yeah.
There's got to be a lot of grace throughout all systems, and people have to understand that we're going to do the best we can, that we care, that we love one another, and that we're helping each other through this, because there's going to be a time to return to a new normal, and what does transition look like? So I think school districts are starting to look at what does that transition back to normal looks like. But throughout this time, keep it simple, very, very simple. Make sure your message is clear and have realistic expectations of yourself and of the people that you work with.
Yeah, that was awesome. So Cheryl Ann just said we need to find creative ways to get our students online. So this also brings up the conversation. I don't want to open up this entire can of worms, but
we can do this all day long. Let's go.
Yeah. But this whole idea of equity, right?
Oh yeah.
And something I want to go back to this grace that you keep on talking about, because I think this is a really important thing. The goal in the no new learning thing, I think, is a good thing to put our stake in right now.
Yes.
If we can reduce the formation of gaps right now, we win.
Oh, yeah.
It's not about did we cover chapter 6, 7, 8, 9. It's about did we stop loss of information? Did we maintain our current growth in our current status in terms of learning? Because something, and I like that you talked about thinking about going back. Do you want to be the teacher that caused anxiety, stress, and punitive harm to a student by stressing them out about grading assignments? Or do you want to be the one that supported them and gave them a safe place to go every day virtually and connected with them in a relationship? Because they're going to come back. So which person do you want to be in that scenario? And for me, I'd rather be the one that supported them so I can close those gaps more effectively when they come back.
I think that goes the same for, I'm sorry, Chad, but I think that goes the same for that building principal.
Yes.
You want to be that principal that was able to effectively communicate and have realistic expectations of your teaching staff, because you're going to live with these people again very, very soon. And, again, principals are in it because they love their teachers and they love their kids, but they want to make sure that that idea of grace and high, the expectations, realistic expectations. We always talk about high expectations, absolutely, but what is realistic? And really, it's about people versus product right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's about people versus product. I love that. I'm stealing that for future years, just so you're fully aware. That's going to come out of my
It's
mouth.
yours. It's yours.
So people are also connecting with Cheryl Ann just said she's been connecting with celebrities for writing prompts and has gotten some of the highest return rate. And that's really a good point. I know students, we're having a hard time connecting with students, but like a writing prompt from a celebrity that gets shared via either social media or a LMS, like all of our students, I don't want to say all of our students, that's incorrect. Most of our students have this device.
Yes.
So we can also leverage social media to share assignments as well as our LMS. So maybe they're having a trouble connecting to the standard tools that we use on their laptops. But if you're giving open-ended assignments from a celebrity, like that's a game changer. Or what if you're working on fractions with an elementary student? You said, go bake a recipe and post it and share a video of you eating the result.
Absolutely.
So now you're talking about fractions, you're talking about like real life application. You're giving a family an activity to do together, potentially. So just thinking about these creative ways to keep the learning happening, keep the content flowing without it being so stringent, right?
Yes.
So that's absolutely awesome. So, Chris, I want to thank you so much for taking the time this morning. I always truly appreciate your expertise and your insight as we have these conversations. We are here every single morning at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. You woke up earlier than I did today. I truly appreciate that. 7 a.m. Central. And you can do the math for the other time zones if you're coming in from somewhere else. But we do this daily drop-in every morning, and we will be for the foreseeable future because we're all at home and we want to help you. We really, truly want to help as many people as possible. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're here every single morning. So, Chris, I want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody who participated in this chat. Whether you're watching later, don't forget to comment here. We'll be monitoring these comments. If you're listening on the podcast, feel free to reach out. If you need anything, we are here for you. This is a marathon, not a sprint, and we're going to be here the entire time. Chris, thank you so much. Everybody have an amazing day and have a great morning.